welcome back to another episode of the Walk Podcast with our college football series with the LSU Tigers. So we have a very important guest here today that we're really excited to speak with him today. But first, I want to give him a little bit of an introduction because his name is Garrett Nussmeier. He's a fifth-year senior quarterback here for the LSU Tigers. He was born in Lake Charles, Louisiana, so he's from this state. But in high school, he played for Marcus High School in Flower Mound, Texas, in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. But last year, he became he was only the fourth quarterback in SEC history to throw for over 4,000 yards in a single season. And he is now a 2025 preseason AP second-team All-American. He graduated in May with a degree in disciplinary studies. We're super excited to welcome you to the show. Thanks for joining us, Garrett.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Absolutely.
Yeah, so the first thing we always kind of like to dive into, and I want to dive into this with you, is really kind of where you grew up and what that was like. I know for you it was kind of crazy. It seemed like you were kind of in a lot of different places.
Yeah.
What really feels like home to you where you grew up?
Yeah, so I lived in 10 different states, moved 12 times growing up. Longest I ever lived anywhere was about 2.5 to 3 years. I lived all over the country, everywhere except for the East Coast. So the only kind of constant place in my life was where I was born, and that's Lake Charles, Louisiana. So, most of my mom's family is from there. Actually, all of my mom's family is from there, and so that's always been home to me. Kind of the reason why I chose LSU. It was what always brought me back to Louisiana. It was just like that was the only place I knew was home. We'd live in the middle of Ann Arbor, Michigan in the winter, and people are eating chili and stuff like that. My mom's like, all right, we got to eat etouffee tonight. That's just how we were raised. It was a Louisiana household.
So what were some of the ups and downs from bouncing all over the country?
Yeah, the ups were experiences that kind of built me into who I am now. Being able to watch my dad's players and things like that, get to experience some things that kids would dream about. I'm so blessed and so thankful for that. The downs were having to make new friends every 2 years, getting to know so many different groups of people. But honestly, I kind of look at it like it's all an up. I'm very grateful and very blessed to have that childhood. The things that I got to go through, the things I got to experience, and being 12 years old, I'm on the field. My dad just won a national championship at the University of Alabama. Nobody gets to live that, and how lucky and how blessed am I to get to have said that that's my childhood, and it also kind of led me into football. So, it was something that I'm grateful for. I thank God every single day that's how I was raised, and I wouldn't have wanted it any other way.
Yeah, and with all the different, obviously you're moving around a lot, but it probably helped having sports and having football. It probably gets you integrated in these different places because that's an instant jump into new friends.
Yeah.
How do you feel like that kind of lifestyle or having to meet new people kind of prepared you for being a college athlete?
Yeah, it was huge. Every time I moved, right, I played football, basketball, baseball growing up. So, I was moving into 3 different locker rooms every time, So, I moved 12 times. So 12 times 3, I don't know what that is. I'm not very great at math, but whatever, 36 or whatever it is. That's how many locker rooms I had to go into and meet new people. And, as a quarterback especially, you have to not only just meet and get to know your teammates, but you have to try and take over a locker room, So it's something that prepared me for college and helped me make the transition so easy. So,
more recently, you've been very outward about your faith.
Mm-hmm.
When was it that faith became real for you?
Yeah. Well, I'm Catholic, so it's always been there for me. I was baptized, obviously, as a baby, and my mom and my grandma are big on faith. And so, my mom always raised us. We moved around 12 times. When you move to a new spot, you don't know anybody, and all you have is your family. And so it was always faith, family, and football. That's what we lived by my entire time growing up. And so, just all the different things that we went through as a family, picking up and having to move from Michigan to Florida in the middle of July, just all these different things. I think our faith is what honestly kept us so strong, and what helped us get through it, was our faith and each other. And so I've always been very big into my faith. I think that I definitely had to learn a lot of big lessons within the last couple of years, and I think speaking more specifically on, my third year here and Jayden Daniels, I had to sit behind him for a year, and he decided to come back for another year. I had people offering me opportunities to go play elsewhere and things like that. And it ultimately came down to I felt like God had brought me to LSU, and I played early as a freshman, and I truly thought I was 3 and out. I thought it was going to be exactly how I wanted it to be. I thought I was done, and I thought I was the best thing ever, and so it just goes to show you when you want things, it's not about when you want them, it's God's timing, and so I had to learn to sit back and just trust in Him and trust that He was going to take care of the rest, and I had to focus on X, Y, Z, and so I think that was one of the biggest turning points. I think for me to grow into my faith, it was always there, but to grow up and grow into the relationship that I have now with God, I think that was one of the biggest moments for me.
Yeah, it's so interesting because like a lot of times it can be easy to be like, oh, I have my faith, and when things are all like going great, but
Right.
It's funny how kind of the Lord will, in those times when things are hard and we feel like we need God and we really need to trust Him,
Yeah.
that's when it really kind of comes out of us. And so when you kind of talked about having to just wait on His timing, for you, when you think about like trusting in His timing,
Mm-hmm.
how do you have like hope and peace in knowing that His timing is going to be perfect?
Yeah. I think for one, like feeling it, just like going through situations of like that, for instance, of like I wanted to be 3 and done. I wanted to play 3 years in college, go to the NFL, live out my dream right away, and I thought that that's what I had worked my whole life for. I didn't understand why. And then as I started to really trust in Him and really just lean on Him, I started to see things in my life like, oh, that makes sense. Oh, look at this. This is working out the way it's supposed to, and everything always happens for a reason. Everything always works out the way it's supposed to. So I think that's the hardest part about faith, right? Is having that blind trust and having that blind, faith, as they call it, And I think that's the coolest thing about faith is when you can fully commit yourself to just fully let it all go and trust in Him. That's when things start to happen in your life that honestly end up being better for your life. So,
From a day-to-day standpoint, what does that look like for you as far as
Yeah.
leaning into Him?
yeah, I think just especially being a quarterback, you got a lot of pressure. You have a lot of things that are always on your plate. You're dealing with X, Y, and Z every single day, and something will come out of left field that you weren't expecting to deal with that day. And I think it's just, I like to read a verse every night. I started it, so I'm Catholic, so we have Lent. So one of the things I decided to do for Lent one year was I decided to start reading the Catholic verse of the day every night. And it just built into a habit and a habit. And I haven't missed a night in probably about close to 3 years now. And so that's one of the things I think that helps me the most is just every night, just before I go to sleep, just reading whatever that passage is that day and just trying to relate as much as I can to my life. And some of the cool things I've started to notice is like, God works in strange ways, and like I'll deal with something and all of a sudden I'll go read that verse that night and I'm like, there's no way. You know what I mean? It's like, wow, how is this seriously like giving me the peace that I've been looking for all day, And so I think there are different things that you can do in your life, like just applying something. And I tell people all the time, I think just adding one thing, like everybody's relationship with God, I believe, is different. Like everybody finds their true peace with Him in different ways. For some people it could be even as simple as playing golf or hunting and fishing. Like for me, I feel the most connected with Him when I'm out and outdoors and doing hunting and fishing and things like that. I don't know why it's like that, but I think that people can find their own ways like to connect with Him. And I think it's important to try different things to see what connects best with you. So
What type of connection do you feel with Him when you're hunting and fishing?
Yeah. To be honest, it kind of goes back into my roots. My grandpa, my mom's dad, was somebody who was big and very important in my life. He was big into hunting and fishing, and he was a cow farmer, things like that. So I grew up in the pastures with him in Lake Charles and things like that. And he passed away when I was about, I want to say 16, 17 years old. And so since then, kind of just being out there, I don't know why, but it just feels more, I feel connected to him and almost feel connected to God as well. And that's just one of the places I'd say for me. I think also playing football is probably the most for me, just when I have that opportunity to kind of take a step back and be like, thank you, this is my life, this is what I love to do, and I get this opportunity. And so those two things for me are probably the biggest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really cool that I know it can be tough losing a grandparent, especially at that age when you're about to transition, and you can still feel that connection there. I noticed that you wear cross eye black.
Yeah.
Why do you choose to wear that cross eye black?
Yeah, I think for me, it's just my way of letting everybody know like that my confidence and I guess eye black is supposed to be fierceness, supposed to be scary and things like that. I don't really know. It's a fear factor, I guess, whatever. But for me, I feel like it's my way of showing like this is what I do. That's my opportunity to you can't really, as a football player, you wear a uniform, so there's not really much you can do. But those crosses, to me, are just my way of saying, like, hey, this is who I am. This is why I play football. This is why I do what I do. And I mean, you'll even see me, if it starts to rub off in the second quarter at halftime, I'm reapplying it just because I always feel like that one opportunity a kid gets to see me play or something like that. Like, I want them to see those crosses on my face. So they're something that are actually pretty important to me.
For sure. And with the influence that you guys carry, it's amazing how the small things can make such a big impact.
Mm-hmm.
Like for Derek Curiel on the LSU baseball team, he's got that
walk-up song. Yeah.
And, so many people have been impacted by that.
Yeah, so I wanted to ask, because you talk about how when you play football, like you feel the Lord's presence.
Yeah.
In what perspective has God given you on the talents that He's blessed you with?
Yeah. That's actually something that was big for me last year that I kind of struggled with for a while, because I felt like I would kind of go through a roller coaster where I would, be struggling and low on confidence, and then I'd start playing good, and then I would be super high and super hyped up, and I would become this player who was super fierce and all this and that, but then I would feel guilty about it and like, man, like, is this how I'm supposed to act and things like that. And I think one of the coolest things that I kind of started to realize towards the end of the year last year was, like, God made me this way for a reason. He gave me this opportunity. He made me who I am. And so embracing that and being who I am is, I think, the most important thing I can do for Him. I feel like being put in this position is an opportunity for me to be my best, to be a killer on the field, but then as soon as I step off it, make sure everybody knows the reason why. And make sure everybody knows that the reason that I can do the things that I'm doing at such a confident and such a high level is because of Him. And so that was kind of the coolest thing for me to go through last year, and probably one of the biggest learning experiences I went through towards the end of the year.
So you mentioned that you connect with God also on the football field. How do you invite God into game day?
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, so, I mean, there are a couple things I do on game day. I feel like in the past, there were times where I tried to do too much. I think there's like a fine line of like doing too much and like still focusing on the game, but also like making sure I'm paying my respect in the same way, I think the biggest thing for me on game day, there's kind of two moments. Obviously, like the day of the game when I wake up, I say a big prayer and things like that. And then, I kind of go into a football mindset. And when I get to the stadium, normally it's just something I learned from my first high school coach. I played two high schools. My first high school was Buchholz High School in Gainesville, Florida. Coach Whittemore. He would always make the team walk down the field and say a prayer on the pylon down there, or not the pylon, the goalpost down there, and then we'd walk back and say another prayer at the goalpost in our end zone. So whenever I walk onto the field, I always go right through the upright and straight to the first pylon. Or I keep saying pylon, the first upright. And so I always say a couple prayers there. I normally say just whatever I'm feeling that day, just pray for His strength, just for Him to guide me, for Him to use me and give me His courage and things like that. And then I'll typically say a Hail Mary, and then try and talk to all my family members that have passed away, and then I finish that prayer, warm up, and then whenever we run out, I always go to the far end zone and get on a knee, and just that's my kind of final prayer of like, all right, now like turn me into a competitor, like it's time to go, and so that's always big for me. Whenever I feel at peace, that's when I can play at my best. So.
And I appreciate your transparency earlier about like how the last couple of years you became aware of some of the things going on in your heart.
Yeah.
How you now feel like you have a better understanding. So looking ahead with this being your final year at LSU,
yeah.
What are some of your personal goals?
Yeah. I think my personal goal, for one, is I just want to win a national championship. I think that's always why I came to LSU, and that's always what I said I wanted to do. Obviously, I would love to win a Heisman. I'd love to be the first overall pick. Those would be awesome. Those are childhood dreams of mine. But I think I've always kind of learned to focus on the bigger things. My high school senior year, I kind of went through a very big, humbling experience. I was highly rated, obviously, and committed to LSU, and we were really, really good. And I tried to do something on the field that I shouldn't have, and I felt like I disrespected the game, I guess you could say, and I ended up getting hurt on the play, and my team lost in the first round without me, and so it was a big deal for me because I kind of hit the lowest point that I've ever hit as far as throughout my career because I was so confused and didn't understand why. I felt like, we were supposed to win a state championship. We were supposed to do this, and that. And, I was supposed to end up being a 5-star, all this and that, And so I put myself above the team, and it kind of hurt me. And so going into this last year, my whole perspective has changed. And I feel like these are all lessons that I've had to learn and all things that, God had to put me through and ultimately led me to where I am today. And so right now my main focus is solely to win a national championship. And I believe that, the rest will take care of itself and whatever His will be. And so I just try to work every single day to make that happen. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think one thing that's really cool is how, a lot of times when we look back on things and we kind of see it more from His, we can look back on it and be like,
yeah.
Wow, God, you've been so faithful through it all.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you're in a position right now where you look back and you just see His faithfulness?
100%. I just look back and I think about who I was in high school and the lessons that I've learned throughout my first couple of years, and it's just all so powerful to me. It's all a full reflection of His glory, His love, the way that He teaches us lessons, and it's sometimes it's a tough love. Sometimes He has to sit you down and get you to your lowest in order for you to understand and for you to wake up, and so looking back on my entire career here so far, it's just all been Him. It's just every single thing that's happened throughout. When you look at my career, and then even what I went through last year in my first year as a starter, it all relates to the same thing. All the highs and the lows and the ups and the downs, it all is to prove to you that you have to have this foundation. You have to have the trust. You have to trust in His timing. It's just all the same. And so I definitely think that that's been something that's helped me a lot.
Is there a specific verse that you lean on a lot?
Yeah, my favorite verse is Proverbs 30, verse 5. Every word of God is flawless. He is a shield to those who take refuge in Him. That's just always been, I don't know why, but it's always just drawn to me, just the thought of, He's a shield to those who refuge in Him. If you're with Him, He's got you, no matter what. And so I don't know if it's a football thing or if it's a life thing for me, just because my life was so inconsistent and so, different, or if it is a football, just Him being a shield to me, things like that. So I don't know, that's always been my favorite.
I want to go back to kind of when you were talking about when you lock in on the field and you kind of get into that, into that mode.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you get in a mode where you're just locked in and maybe you're in that full competitive mode, or do you actually find yourself talking to God while you're on the field, you're in the huddle?
I actually, before every drive, I always do a quick point to the sky, and I do a jump, and people make fun of me, and people recognize it. So that's kind of always been my thing. So I don't really think about, I don't really try to talk to God during the games or during the play, but it's always I always do the point, and it's just for me, it's my way to lock in. It's all right, thank you, God. This is my life. It's just it's a big picture thing for me. It's all right, just have fun. All multiple things combined for me, and just one point to the sky and a jump, and it's after that, I'm all right, I'm a child of God. Nobody can touch me. He's got me, and I'm just gonna go play. And so I think that I don't do as much in between plays or in drives or things like that, because I think that, as I said before, I feel like He's made me into the competitor that I am. He built me into this player and this person that I am. So I'm going to go be that and be who He made me to be. And so, but yeah, the little point to the sky is something I like to do. So,
being a child of God, what does that look like on the LSU football team?
Yeah, it's just, we've definitely had more people kind of come to Christ, I'd say, here on our team in the last couple of years. I think for me, it's just trying to set an example. It's doing things the right way and always being open with my teammates, not trying to push it on them, but whenever they want to talk about it, I'm always open to talk about it, and I'm always trying to give them visual examples, I guess you could say. And, I'm very open about my faith. I speak about it all the time, whether it's to my teammates and we're talking about something and I'd give them advice. I'm using faith. So, there are some players on our team that I can't do as much of as I wish I could, but they're going through their own timing and their own path, a journey, I guess you could say. So,
when you look at Jesus and the leadership that you have on this team, what's something from Him that you feel like you try to really exemplify in your leadership as a quarterback here?
Yeah, I think for one, it's just the love, just making sure all my teammates feel that from me. Like, I truly love and care about them. Like, I truly want them to be their best. I truly want to help them whatever way I can. And so I hope that my teammates would say that about me in the way that I act in the locker room and around this building. But yeah, that's probably the biggest thing.
With this huge Clemson game coming up, why choose to take the time to share about your faith today?
Yeah, because I think that it's the most important thing to me. I mean, I always pray, even since I was a kid. And, as I said, I had to kind of learn how to understand, I guess, my faith more and more. But one of the things I always pray for is I pray for this platform. And I pray that, yes, my dreams are to play in the NFL. Yes, my dreams are to be a national championship winning quarterback, to win a Heisman, to be a first overall pick. But when I pray for that, I don't pray for that because of that. I pray and I ask him to give me that so that I can have this stage to do this. Like, this is what I want to do. This is what I pray for. Like, to be able to be an influence on the youth, to be a number one pick and to stand up on the stage and let people know about Jesus Christ. Like, that is my goal in life, not just to be able to accomplish it because that is my dreams. And yes, that is true. Obviously, I do want to do this because I love football and I love, this is what I've grown up knowing. But also to have that opportunity to be able to do that. I mean, to just give back to him. And any opportunity I have to do that, I'll never say no, and this always has to come first. So
you mentioned like helping when you can and when you have teammates that are open to it, leading them to Jesus Christ. Who is Jesus to you?
Oh, man, that's tough. I mean, I think who is Jesus to me? Well, I think for one, I'm Catholic, so it's different. So I'm very traditional. You know what I mean? I go to mass and it's always the same. It's 45 minutes. We follow the schedule and things like that. So I think sometimes for me it's different trying to relate to some of my teammates who are Christian, and I've learned to try and like flip the mindset of like relating to them more in different ways. And it's not that I don't like the new way, and I feel like the Christianity, it's all the same, right? Like, I mean, at the end of the day, we're all following one God. We're all trying to serve the same God, and we're trying to do the same things. But just learning, I feel like, how to relate to them more, like, than I would somebody who might be one of my Catholic teammates who, grew up in the church, who followed X, Y, and Z, who had their first communion, who got confirmed, like all the different things that us Catholics do. I think that's been kind of the coolest thing for me, and I think it speaks also to, like, when you play at LSU, you're in a locker room with people who are from 100,000 different backgrounds. You know what I mean? Like, so many different things. I mean, there are teammates who grew up the complete opposite than me, and so trying to relate to them in so many different ways, just learning, how they grew up, how the experiences that they've been through is something I can't really relate to, but trying to find a way that how can I bring faith into this, and you know what I mean, things like that. So that's been something that I've thought has been pretty cool.
Yeah, it's interesting how like our experience tends to shape us, and it's cool that you've been patient and like tried to understand where other people are coming from, because a lot of times it can just be easy to live in our own world. So
yeah,
that's awesome. What do you think is the toughest stadium to play in the SEC?
Toughest stadium to play in the SEC. I'd say if I wasn't playing for LSU, it's definitely LSU. I mean, that place is ridiculous. But A&M's tough. Kyle Field's tough. That's a good spot. I think a sleeper is Auburn was actually pretty loud 2 years ago. That place was pretty loud. Funny enough, the loudest stadium I've ever played in was actually in the SEC championship, because we played Georgia in Atlanta, and so it just basically turns into a home game for them. And it's in the dome. It's loud. I mean, it was rocking. So, but overall, I'd probably have to say A&M or Florida. Florida's pretty loud too. Yeah.
What's your favorite tradition at LSU?
Favorite tradition at LSU. That's tough. Man, we have some good ones. I'd say my favorite's probably the Call 'em Baton Rouge song. Like, just pregame hearing that gets me going. Actually, funny story. So the year where I was Jayden's backup going into my second year as his backup, when he decided to come back, we played in that SEC championship game, which was my first time like really playing in a big game at LSU. And so, before the game, I was kind of in a tough spot. I mean, like, it wasn't looking great for me here. Like, we were probably going to have some serious conversations about me leaving and such. And I knew Jayden was banged up, so there was a chance I would go in the game. And so Jayden ends up playing the first half. He gets hurt, and he can't go back in the second half. And so, it was my opportunity. So, I get in the huddle, and this song, Call 'em Baton Rouge, has always been big to me. It's always been big to my family. Like, we always listen to it, and it was such a God-wink moment, because as I got in the huddle to take the field for the first time, this song started playing. and I was like, holy cow, like, this is why I want to be at LSU. I'm not leaving this place. This is where I want to be. Like, it just brought back everything, and I went out and threw for 300 yards, the most in a single half in SEC championship history, and the rest is history, I guess. And I guess that's honestly why I'm still here today, was because I was able to do that. But just such a God wink moment. It gave me so much confidence in that moment. Like, and I swear he did that on purpose, because like there's just no way, you know. And for that to happen was pretty cool. So,
what would your advice be to a young athlete that is searching?
Yeah, I would say, to be honest, I would say try and find him as fast as possible, because I feel like as an athlete, or even as a person, like, he's going to find a way to get to you. I feel like I truly believe that in the bottom of my heart, that he is going to find a way to get to you. And what I tell people all the time is, unfortunately, you're not going to like the way that he's going to find a way to get to you. And he's going to put you at your rock bottom in order for you to finally wake up. And so if you don't want to go through that, if you want to live a life that is worth living, like, you need to find him. And, you know, I don't know that it's necessarily a pressure, but because he loves you regardless. Like, you know, and I think that's something too, is like, no matter what you do, he loves you, and he wants you to come to him, and he's going to find a way to get to you eventually. And so I would say try and just seek him in whatever way you feel possible. Like, as I said earlier, just find whatever your way to feel his presence is. Just try it and just keep doing it until you start to build a relationship. And, you know, as I spoke before about my relationship with God, like, I feel like you have to build that relationship. And, you know, even for somebody like me who grew up in the Catholic Church, who has been, you know, if you would ask me when I was 5, like, you know, what the most important thing, I'd say God, right? And I knew God was the most important thing, but as I said, I didn't really understand why. You know, like, I knew I was supposed to be strong in my faith. I knew I was supposed to worship God in everything I did, but that doesn't mean I was doing it. And so, like, your relationship's going to build with him over time, I feel like. And so I think just trying to build that relationship as much as you can. Just read his word, read the Bible. Just do whatever you can to try and build that as fast as possible.
Well, Garrett, thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, sir.
On the Walk Podcast. We're so grateful for you, and we just wish you the Lord's blessing on the
Appreciate it.
season and the rest
Sir.
of your life, man.
Thank you. Appreciate y'all having me. God bless.